Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen of Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. The first item on the agenda is the first Selectmen's remarks. I'll read them, obviously. Good evening, happy almost spring, and St. Patrick's Day. Don't forget to turn your clocks ahead 1 hour this weekend and check the batteries in your smoke detectors. Today is also International Women's Day, which is a global holiday celebrated annually on March 8th as a focal point in women's rights movement, bringing attention to issues such as gender equality, reproductive rights, and violence and abuse against women. As I have been saying for the past few months, this year, as in previous years, the budget process has been extremely challenging. If all departments, boards, and commission budget requests were granted for the next fiscal year, our budget would have increased by slightly over 10%, which I know you must all agree is not sustainable. With the Board of Selectmen's review and recommendations, this request is now down to a 4.98% increase. As you know, we have made that recommendation to the Board of Finance at our special meeting on February 21st. The Board of Finance began its budget review at its last meeting on March 2nd. There were no decisions made nor votes taken at that meeting, and they will meet again next week on March 16th. Once again, I encourage residents to pay careful attention to the budget process and voice their opinions. The most effective way for folks to share your opinion and/or ask questions is at the Monday, April 24th preliminary budget hearing, when the Board of Finance presents its proposed budget. This meeting will take place at the Amity High School Auditorium at 7:30 p.m. Following this meeting, the Board of Finance may make changes to its proposed budget, which will then be presented at the annual town meeting on Monday, May 15th. Each time we go through the budget process, it becomes more clear to me that we must grow and diversify our grand list. Our ongoing budget dilemma is caused by a long-term revenue problem. We've consolidated staff positions and cut programs. There are very few ways we can make additional meaningful cuts to the budget without cutting services, so we need to focus on growing revenue. New revenue is critical to fund our high-quality education and other important town services. I always welcome other ideas about how to grow the grand list, generate additional revenue through other means, and otherwise achieve efficiencies to achieve municipal budget stabilization and predictability going forward. The town can grow its grand list by expanding the commercial district and also offering new and diverse housing. Our 2030 task force is examining how to accomplish just that, with a goal of having a healthier grand list by 2030. The task force has already presented their connectivity proposal in the business district to maximize grant opportunities, and will present strategies on placemaking and other ideas for the business district at the April 12th Board of Selectmen meeting. I look forward to hearing their recommendations. With its important work in mind, I'm appointing 2 new members of the 2030 Task Force. Their resumes are in your packet tonight. I have confirmed these appointments with Task Force co-chairs Dickerson and Jacobs. The new appointments are Justin Anderson and Robert Scherer. I continue to seek ways to expand our regional services. We will be discussing this evening a proposed memorandum of understanding between Beacon Falls and Woodbridge to provide district animal control services on a month-to-month basis at this point, following an horrific animal situation that occurred recently in Beacon Falls. On a positive note, I'm pleased to share that a 55-plus housing proposal, which was approved by both the Town Plan and Zoning Commission and the Inland Wetlands Agency, has now begun. The project is located at Litchfield Turnpike and Bradley Road. Toll Brothers estimates construction will be completed in 3 years. This housing project will grow our grand list with approximately 70 new homes, while not adding to the enrollment in our schools. I will be meeting next week with Selectmen Vogel and Kyriakos, along with Tony Genovese, to discuss hiring a consultant to review and revise the RFP for the former Country Club of Woodbridge. I will update you as we move forward. Last month, there was a request from the Massaro Farm to the Board of Selectmen for a planned upgrade, which included adding a farm stand to the barn on the property. This was referred to Town Plan and Zoning for an 824 review. However, they were not successful in their grant application for the farm stand, so this project has been withdrawn. I'm delighted to let you know that our wonderful town library staff has stepped up to coordinate town-wide events such as Earth Day 2024, Woodbridge Like Me Day, and this year's Red Letter Day to be held on Saturday, April 22nd. As we have had several staff changes over the past few months, we've taken the opportunity to examine resources and reallocate department assignments related to town events. Lastly, please remember to add the Amity budget referendum on your calendars. It will be held on Tuesday, May 2nd, at the Center Building Gym. And with that, we will move to item 2, which is the Woodbridge Board of Education Superintendent Vonda Tenza, and she's here. Come on up.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
I enjoy these meetings.
Okay.
So again, thank you for the opportunity to update you on some things that are happening at Beecher Road School. Some of you may have been hearing about a reading waiver and the state of Connecticut and their efforts to try, admirable efforts to try to improve reading literacy across the state at the K-3 level. Woodbridge is one of many districts, over 80, who have submitted a waiver requesting permission to remain able to use their current programming and strategies, and also the ability to examine new opportunities and research strategies that are out there, as opposed to needing to use one of the required, I believe it's 7 mandated programs from the state of Connecticut. We submitted our waiver at the end of February. It was well over 100 pages long, filled with evidence of our reading instruction and resources that we currently use that contribute to the high level of success of our students in this district. So at this point, we wait to see what the state has to say. We do not have any further information on when that decision would be made. I do want to share with you that several superintendents, including myself, offered testimony at the state legislative hearing on March 1st regarding this waiver. I had a slot for virtual testimony and it ran all day long, so I submitted it in writing, and the superintendents and CAPS are advocating for an extension of this timeline for the reading implementation bill. Currently, if our waiver is not accepted, we would need to have plans for a program in place within a year, and we haven't had any budget decisions that would support that, and we don't have any, at this point, we would not have any teacher input, and our teachers know a lot about effective reading, and we would want them to be part of that process. Enrollment for the month at Beecher Road School, we grew 2 more. We have a new 1st grade student and a new 6th grade student for a total of 865 students for the month of February. Also in February, the February Town Beecher Building Committee met in executive session and reviewed a variety of safety and security upgrades. And we are looking to any end of year surplus for some immediate purchase needs. We began meeting this morning talking and prioritizing what those would be. We have some quotes to move forward with, some of those that are very reasonable to handle internally. And again, we won't make those decisions yet, but we are earmarking them for a potential surplus that we may have. And we have prioritized some items that we can roll into a grant that has been freed up, as well as potentially identifying some that may need capital funding. Our ad hoc building committee is scheduled to have their first meeting March 15th, which I believe is next week at 4 p.m. And I believe an invitation was sent out today to those members. Many of you know, February 28th was our first official snow day. We did have 1 day off originally in December, but that was more of a wind power related issue. This was our first snow day, and it gave our facilities group time to kind of test run their patterns of shoveling and plowing, and everything went really well. Vito Esparro was very pleased, and we are ready for any further weather. And finally, Read Across America is tomorrow. I'm going to see some of you, I believe it's tomorrow morning, to read to our students. It's a wonderful event in almost every district in Connecticut, and I'm excited to see how Beecher Road School celebrates the love of reading. There we go.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Vonda? comments? Yep.
I do have one with regard to the security, potentially some of the security items being funded this year. Thank you very much for considering that. I think that is in keeping with what the building committee would like to see happen. And then that way we'll be able to focus on what needs to go out to bonding. So
Yep.
that is great progress. And I was just wondering if you could give us an update on the project open choice situation, if there's any news you can share.
Okay, I really don't have anything new to share. We did talk about it at the last board meeting, and we continue to address it. I remain convinced that this is a district-to-district billing issue that we need to come to some agreement on. And we do have some meetings set up with various individuals to continue to discuss that. I'm confident that we will come to what is needed, which is a clear agreement. I remain, again, consistent with the fact that the state of Connecticut really should provide that guidance so that districts don't have to spend the amount of time and energy splitting out information when the state could provide that guidance. But at this point, we are continuing to work on it and handle it, and we have several different meetings, again, set up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else have any questions for Rhonda? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Stay
much.
warm
Have a
out
great
there.
night.
Ooh, the wind. Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda is the Administrative Officer Director of Finance report. I'll turn it over to Mr. Genovese.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I have a monthly report through February of 2023, and report remains similar to the previous month, which is a surplus of approximately $650,000 at the end of the fiscal year. That's on a budget basis. Because we have a contribution from fund balance in our budget of $400,000, the projected year-end surplus is an additional $250,000 to our fund balance, and that'll bring us at approximately 14.6% of our revenues or expenses. Similar to last month, our interest income continues to do well. We have a surplus there of a little over $300,000, and that's a majority of where our surplus comes from. Our intergovernmental revenue is pretty close to budget, but there's two large swings. One surplus of $180,000 from state of Connecticut, which we did not anticipate, from a revenue sharing account. That's offset by a shortfall in special education excess cost grant funds of $194,000. Natural gas we'll continue to monitor. We may have some funding needs there in the coming months due to the weather. Depending on how the weather plays out the rest of the year, there may be a few accounts that need to be funded this year. Waste management, we have a deficit there, probably around $50,000. That comes from solid waste, or tonnage is up this year from last year. We did the budget, which creates more in two ways. We pay per ton at the facility in Bridgeport for disposal of solid waste, and we also pay to transport it from our transfer station to Bridgeport. So those are the two costs involved with solid waste. And so the good thing there is that we charge haulers. So the more, and it's a charge is designed to cover our expenses, both hauling and weight, or the tip charge. So I'm hopeful that will help to cover a good portion of the deficit. As the tonnage is going up, so do those revenues. The other portion of the deficit is from recycling. We do not charge for recycling. I don't think many towns, if any towns do. The last time we looked at it, there were no towns, I don't think, that charged for recycling. But that's where a good portion of the deficit comes from also. So we will continue to monitor that, and maybe next month or one of the next 2 months, we'll probably have some activity to transfer. Excuse me. And finally, our St. Amity Regional School District has a surplus of $363,000. So that comes from two places. The first is our adopted budget was $134,000 less, or more, excuse me, than what Amity eventually adopted. So we had a surplus there to start the year. And then secondly, our March payment was reduced by $229,000 because of Woodbridge's portion of the 2022 surplus. So combine those two numbers, and that's where we get that surplus from. So those are all contributing factors to our year-end surplus.
Thank you. Anyone have any comments or questions for Tony? Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Next item on the agenda is funding requests, and we have a few. Anything you want to tell us about budget contingency? Everything's sort of okay, right, Tony?
Yes,
All good?
so far.
Okay.
We haven't had many,
Don't say it.
right?
Last time Matt said it at the Board of Finance.
He did.
Next
The
day
next
we
day
had
there was,
snow.
yeah, right. That's true.
Don't say it. Okay, thank you. I think the first item in your packet is line item transfer number 2223-20 in the amount of $8,000. This is a line item transfer, I will point out. It's traffic review for 10 to 14 Merritt Avenue. Fees that are paid by the applicant will fund this study. So anything to add on
It's essentially a
this?
pass, it's
Yeah.
essentially a pass-through. We collect the money from the applicant and we apply it to an expenditure line.
Right. They've already completed this, right?
There's two.
Oh,
I'm not sure which.
this is the
which-
first,
Yeah,
okay. No, I mean, this is the first one at Merritt Avenue.
this is for Merritt Avenue, right? Then
Right.
there's the other one for,
Right.
right,
Okay, all right.
for the other development.
So I will make a motion to approve line item transfer number 2223-20 in the amount of $8,000. Is there a second? Thank you. Any discussion on this or questions for Tony or me? Oh, I love it. We just have to say aye or no. We don't have to call on everybody. It's wonderful. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks. Looks unanimous. Great. Thanks much. Next one is line item transfer number 2223-21 in the amount of $7,000 to fund increases in several software packages that had increased after the budget process.
So this is a situation where, when we create the budget, we have to estimate where we think some of our software fees are going to be. We've seen those fees increase lately, a lot of it due to cybersecurity, and those costs are passed on to us. This includes our financial package, includes our tax package, our assessor, and our building permit package. We're very cloud-based in our approach, and so there were those fees are associated with those packages. It's not one particular software package, but there are several.
And these are coming out of,
There's a surplus in the line that I was
Right.
able to take it from.
right, good. So once again, it's line item transfer, not dipping into contingency. So someone want to make a motion? I don't always do it. I feel badly. Okay, Joe, to approve line item transfer 2023-21, $7,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments for Tony on this?
So are these, all the different pieces of software, are these like yearly fees or are these like?
These are
one-time?
yearly.
These are,
So, correct. So in the next year's budget, I've anticipated some of this
okay.
and was able to increase it accordingly. You'll notice there's a pretty decent increase in next year's budget as a result. So I was able to accommodate that.
So this is sort of contracted
These are-
software that
Correct.
we'll continue to pay each year?
Correct. And
Okay.
it's a cloud-based software system that we are continuing to pay. That's correct.
Where is the cloud?
It's all around us.
It's all around us. That's
I
right.
gotta ask. Okay, sorry, I know. Never got an answer. All right. So we have a motion and a second, right, guys?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? All in favor? And it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next one, request for funding number 2223-22 in the amount of $11,200 for the purchase of new software to operate the Firehouse Department Records Management System due to the termination of their current software. I have some comments and some questions on this, but I guess I'll make a motion that we approve it, and then we can talk about it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. So, This is not a line item transfer, this is coming out of contingency,
Correct.
correct?
Right.
$11,200. One of my questions is this a one-time cost, or for this year, or is it gonna be every year, or once they buy
So-
it, it's there?
No, so, there'll be a cost each year, but I don't know what that is.
Okay, might be important to know that.
Yep, I can
Okay.
find that out for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that might be good.
It,
Anybody else have?
it seems like a large number compared to the entire town's software. Is
Right.
there a reason for that? And I don't understand exactly what
They used to have
department
firehouse.
records they have to manage. Are these, like the records of the firemen and their,
Right, they have call records, they have all their data basically for their operations is in this, including, I believe it includes, information on, if there's a call and the type of call and, you know, what they need to bring and all this kind of stuff.
And they put it in there, I don't
It's
even
in
understand how it
it's
works.
in the vehicles
but-
too, so that you can get it like,
Right, and then they have to report it to the state or
Right,
something, right?
right,
So
right.
maybe they use, I don't know. Maybe
but I'm
that
not
was-
sure what the annual cost is going forward.
Yeah.
Or if this includes, I'd have to find that out for you. If it
Okay.
includes like training or other one-time costs that are not necessarily rolled forward, which is typically the case.
So, yeah,
So
Any-
I had
go
a
ahead.
question about whether, so if this is proprietary software and they use the word terminated, so I wonder, are they able to get their data out? A lot of times when you're in a very specialized piece of software, you get stuck and you have
Right.
to pay what you have to pay.
Right, right.
But
Good question.
at this juncture, if we're going to leave one, it sounds like we absolutely are going to have to leave, but now where do we go? Do we go into another specialized piece of software? Or do we find something that maybe can be used by other departments and be interoperable? So
Right,
I just
can
wondered
find
if
that
we
out.
could,
I can find that out, yeah.
yeah, if we could find out more about what the options are, because we're at a juncture that it might make sense to,
Sure.
if we could get other options. But maybe
Okay.
they come back and tell us there are no other options, but.
right.
I know with the building official package, we used a package that the COG put together that a lot of other towns use.
Oh,
So-
interesting.
So maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah, and the Board of Education uses software for their meetings that lots of other boards use as
Right,
well, but
right,
then they
right.
had to move from one set of, software to another at one point.
So if you put this on hold, and I can find
Yeah,
out.
would everybody feel comfortable, we'll either have the chief come back, or maybe we could get answers to these questions for next month.
Okay.
I'd like to know if the 11,000 here is just for the software, or
Right.
does that include some
Also
other?
good,
Good
yeah,
question, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. I kind of wondered what happened to termination of Firehouse software, if it went out of business, or it was just something that it wasn't working anymore
Right.
for them as well.
Yes.
Sorry to inundate you with all these questions,
problem.
Tony, but,
Not a problem at all.
okay. So we'll just table this until next month.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that. Next one, line item transfer number 2223-23 in the amount of $3,000 to transfer. This is a pass-through again, but it's a good one. $3,000 donation from the Bethwood Baseball League for the cost of providing temporary toilets and overtime related to league tournaments. And there's a memo from WFBL. Is it still the WFBL, or is it called Bethwood?
That's-
Okay, the Bethwood Baseball League, President Dwight Rowland. So I'll move acceptance of line item transfer 2223-23 in the amount of $3,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, David. Any questions or comments on this? It's good stuff. All in favor? All right, thanks so much. Got a lot of these jobs here tonight. But they're all item transfers, which is good stuff. People finding money in their budgets. Next one is line item transfer number 2223-24 in the amount of $22,000. Request for funds to address the shortage in the repair and maintenance line item in the building maintenance budget of, is it 18.5?
Correct.
As well as the town's portion of updating the EV charging stations. And there's a memo in there from Brad Parsons for further details. Anybody have any, want a motion that we approve it, and then we can talk about it? Somebody else?
Sure, so moved.
Thank you. Anyone second?
I'll second.
Thank you, okay. Anybody have comments or questions on this?
Tony, I have a question about what The EV charging stations,
Right.
how does that work? I mean,
So there are 2 charging stations, as you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And there's a grant that we received through UI. That's it's federal, I think, funds, but it's comes through the utility. And so the cost of the total project is $12,000, and the grant covers $7,600 of the project. The town puts in $4,400, and then it funds the project, and it completely because we were having problems here, as you know.
I do.
They were
Emails flying in left and right, how
they
they're
were-
not working. and-
So, but I don't think they make. As a matter of fact, I think they don't make some of the parts anymore.
Right, yeah,
for
that was when Brad was on the hunt to try to find, because we have older EV
these
stations.
EVs are probably
It was,
A long time ago.
yep,
at least 10 years old,
Right.
probably.
right.
2008
And,
or something.
and when people use them, how are they billed for the?
So that's a good question. When we first put the EVs in, there was a requirement that we had to have for 3-4 years, could not charge. These EVs will have a credit card interface on them. So if the town so chose, we could charge people to use them.
So currently, we don't charge.
Currently, we do not. It's hooked up to the building, the closest building. In this case, that was the library or here.
that was in the beginning, that was the rules, but now
Right,
it's a whole
but they've
different
changed the
story. Given
rules on that
electric
so we can
bills,
start to charge.
Yeah.
right,
I think initially it was done to encourage people to use them, and now the rules have changed on
Yeah.
that.
we also had problems where people would be leaving their car there overnight, so we've now made a rule.
So
this
we
is-
had it right, we
Yeah.
had to put a limit
They
on
just
how
drop
long
it
you
off,
keep your car there.
wife picks you up and you go home and then come back and get it in the morning, so that was just, and that was kind of being hoggy, because
Free electricity.
nobody
sure.
else could do
Right.
it either,
Right.
so we've since resolved that
So
with
we'll,
a
you
3-hour
know,
time
we
limit
will
or
I
something.
could come back with some of that charging,
Yep.
the information on how much to charge and all that stuff. and
Because
you
it's
can
not
make that
free,
decision.
it's free to
And
the end
electricity,
user,
have
but
you
we're all
seen your-
paying for it.
Right.
Have you seen your
I
UI
just-
bill lately?
Yeah, yeah, So-
Our electric bills are very steep, and,
Yes, they are,
yeah.
I think it's nice, but
yeah.
that's good to know that we're actually be able to charge for that, so
Yeah.
that would,
That was one of the things that we wanted to, the reason why we wanted to upgrade,
Yeah,
because the others didn't have that ability.
So if we were to consider establishing a fee for that, does that go through similar to the way we establish fees for the transfer station?
I would
Needs to
imagine that's how I would
Kind of
do
go
it.
to ordinance, maybe?
Oh, I'm not sure.
You don't need,
ordinance
I don't
now.
think you need an ordinance, no.
I think you
Okay.
would just, the board would set a
so
charge.
when is that gonna come back to us at some point,
Yeah,
once we
as
get
soon
the
as we, as soon as we
Yeah.
order the equipment, as a matter of fact, I think the equipment's, if I'm not mistaken, they're waiting for us to approve this, because I think it's ready
Okay.
to go.
Okay,
All right, back to our motion then.
all right,
thank you.
Okay, and just a note on the, building maintenance, we had a failure of the big expense was the Darling House boilers failed,
Hmm?
and, that was, a good portion of this. And we had some problems with the, dry system over at the center building, the dry, sprinkler system earlier in the year. Those are the 2 items that cost a lot. But it was the boilers that was
that
unanticipated.
was like 16,000
About
or something,
$16,000,
yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
oil fired
So-
there?
Oil, yeah.
And there's no other option?
There's no gas line in
gas
sight.
line.
So we've got a motion to
Yeah.
approve, okay, is there a second? Anybody?
It was, yeah.
Okay, great, any other comments or questions? Call the vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, unanimous, great. Alrighty then, is that all of them?
That's it.
Boom, thank you. All right, any other, Tony?
I do not.
All right, wonderful. Okay, we call on Assistant Administrative Officer's report from Karen Crosby.
Thanks, Beth. The town recently signed off on the website redesign with Civic Plus. Civic Plus is now working in the background to transfer content. And the refreshed design should be ready for my review mid-April. And barring any major changes, we should be able to launch in May with a new
Good.
refreshed website. I've been working with Deep and Waste Zero on a pilot program for recycling of food scraps, which would be paid through a grant for the first year. and resident participation is optional.
West Haven.
I forwarded some grant documents to Jerry for review, and once we get that reviewed, we can move forward and take next steps.
That's terrific. Did you see, Tony sent me an article, I don't know if you saw it, from the New Haven.
I did,
Yes.
the West Haven.
West
yeah.
Haven, they're putting in.
They can't do
boats.
anything right. in West
They
Haven.
found
Yeah.
boats in their
playing to
There's very little they
stereotype
could do right
It
over
was
there.
their,
I'm
it
not
wasn't
sure
a
why that
sofa,
is.
but it was a real big item, and boots and all this other stuff in their food waste. I thought, and they didn't think it's really necessarily nefarious, that maybe just people don't understand.
Well, it's that education piece, right? So we'll need to
Uninformed
educate our
and-
Poor West
Right,
Haven.
as well.
education's the key,
Yeah.
right. Uninformed
I
and
know, you just
a
gotta
little
be
bit
kidding
lazy
me.
probably.
Yes,
The interesting
probably.
thing is, right now, we're at $64 a ton maybe for solid waste. And as you may or may not know, there's a garbage crisis looming here. And our contract expires end of fiscal 2024, so we have a little over a year. So the fees are projected to go to $80 to $90 a
Lord,
ton.
good goodness, goodness. Wow.
So if you
Gotta
can
get our weight
food
down.
waste out of the
Yeah.
waste stream, right, that's a significant,
Yeah.
it's a heavy component, believe it or not.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Karen, but I just had
That's
to
okay.
talk about that. Oh, sorry, go ahead, continue,
I
sorry.
continue to work with the finance department, and currently we're working on the implementation of Empower, which is the new provider for the 457 plan for our employees. So we're deep into that implementation, getting them information, hopefully July, Tony?
Right, July, yeah.
With the help of the finance department, I'm looking at department purchases and trying to coordinate, consolidate to save some money. And a bid will be going out soon for copier leases, trying to get one provider for all the copiers in town to get some savings in that area. I'm also continuing to work with Tony on the FY24 budget and working on the preliminary budget hearing, which is scheduled, as Beth said, for Monday, April 24th at 7:30, and it'll be held at the Amity High School auditorium. And lastly, another item I'm working on is with the safety committee. I've contacted all the members, and they're all would like to continue serving on that committee. So we'll be meeting soon to make preparations for training for the year. And that's it.
Anybody have any questions for Karen?
Excited to see more about the website. That'll be great.
That's big progress.
It is. Civic Plus is making it a little bit easy.
That's
Wonderful.
what we pay them for, that's good.
That's true.
Okay, thank you. Item 5 is our consent agenda, and right off the bat, I have to tell you that A and B, I think, are okay to leave in there, unless somebody has any issues with the town clerk's report or the acknowledging the resignations. But item C, we received a note late yesterday afternoon, I think. The Luminaria project is not going to happen on Saturday. So Ally Kravitz has pulled it, and she's going to get back to us. It was the weather probably, and also it's still cold and this kind of thing. So it's good this year going to be at the Fitzgerald Cornfield versus out here on the town green, and she's done a lot of work toward it, but I guess because of the weather, they're just going to hold it. So stay tuned. So I'd like to pull that out of the consent agenda, and I understand there was some issues with some of the minutes, so I will pull the minutes out and we'll go by them one-on-one if that's okay with everyone. So with that, I will motion approval of consent agenda item A and item B. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments on those? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much. And C, we're not going to do anything with. And D, let's take them one by one. First one is January 11th. I'll make a motion that we approve them. Is there a second? Any comments or questions on the minutes of January 11th?
Just the one typo that I had suggested.
Okay, and you
the-
gave it to Jerry Shaw,
I
right?
gave it to Jerry.
Okay, great.
I gave the typos that I saw to Jerry,
Okay.
and some of them were cute.
Yeah, I was going to write back, and then I said, is this communication whatever it's called? Ex partes. I'm not a lawyer, so I said, I won't write back, but he's right. So, okay, with those, that friendly amendment to the minutes of January 11th, all in favor?
Aye.
Sounds good. Okay, and then February 8th, I'll make a motion, we approve them. Is there a second? Thanks, Joe. Anything on that one?
Just the typo.
Okay, again, as amended. We have a motion and a second, all right, all in favor? Thank you very much. And lastly, February 21st? Any comments on those? I didn't find anything. Okay, I'll make a did I motion? I'll make a motion, we approve them. Is there a second? They come fast like this. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks so much. All right, and with that, we have a public comments at 6 o'clock, and then at 6:30, we have a public hearing, so we may end up taking a break in between. We can sit and talk amongst ourselves, but with that, we'll turn it over. Maybe you can fill up 20 minutes here, Jerry.
That would be kind of unusual, but who knows? The first thing under my report is the Historical Society. As you know, the board authorized the Historical Society to proceed with an application for some money to make improvements to the cow barn, which is on Litchfield Turnpike. They did, they were awarded a grant. I think the total amount that they're looking for, that they were approved for now, is about $121,000. The cost of the project escalated significantly to about $240,000. And I just received last week, I guess, or the week before, the documents from the state agency, DECD, for that we have to sign, and I just want the board to be aware of, and not that this does not necessarily mean that you're not going to go forward with it, but they require us to sign an easement, which essentially restricts the use of that cow barn property. Can't be subdivided, can't be sold. The town assumes 100% obligations for the repair and maintenance of the building once it's improved. It's fine as far as I'm concerned, but the board needs to know that by taking this money, there is significant burdens and obligations with regard to the property. So we can't subdivide it, we can't build anything on it, we can't touch that property at all for a period of 15 years. We have no obligation.
50 or
15.
15, okay.
We have no obligation to repay the money because it's a grant. So with that, that's my report. I have the documents if anybody's interested. I just want you to be aware of it, I want you to understand it, and I wanted to know if there's any objection to us going forward.
This is the one across the street.
Across the street.
yellow corner.
Yes, right.
That we took the little.
That's going up
little
Litchfield
Lucy
toward
out.
Bethany on the left-hand side.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So Jerry, that's the entire acreage or just the acreage around the barn?
The
itself?
entire acreage.
So the
It's
field
not
that's-
split, the field. I don't know how many acres there are, maybe, Jerry, do you
Jerry?
know? Huh?
I have,
Do you know how many acres there are?
let's see here.
Look on the town website.
And then it goes up and encompasses Charlie, Camp Whiting,
Yeah, the hill, goes up the hill, sort of.
the property.
So
5.496 acres.
That
Gotta
sounds,
be-
Oh,
that,
okay,
yeah,
that's.
that sounds
And
right.
then-
Yeah,
And then the second part, is the second parcel included too, do you know?
yeah.
Yep,
That's 27.755 acres.
yeah, it's a large parcel.
Yeah.
It's, right now it's open.
Does someone farm part of that? Do you know, do we have one of the
Yeah,
agreements?
Sorensen
for-
does, I
or
think.
Sorensen does that
Right.
one behind the barn?
Right.
Or sort of further north on the barn, from the barn.
So again, you know,
And that's allowed.
it's not a significant amount of money that they're getting. It's not minor, but it's not like the $2 million we received for the firehouse.
Right.
But it is money, and there is significant burdens when you accept the money. Want the board to know, and I think it would be good if the board either votes yes or no, go ahead or not, knowing that you're encumbering approximately 30 acres of land.
And we assume well, I shouldn't assume anything, but the Historical Society understands this as well, as sort of
Yeah.
caretakers
Yes.
of
Well,
that.
I
that
assume that they
building.
do,
Yeah,
So
okay.
you mentioned also, Jerry, that we assume the responsibility for repairs once the barn is restored.
Well, we have that responsibility now anyway.
Well,
But once we get the money.
yes or no, I mean,
Yeah, you can let it fall apart.
Right,
You know,
right.
there's nothing that says that you have to maintain it. This says you have to maintain it.
yeah, this one says we do.
Yes.
So for example, if there were to be a fire to burn the barn down, would we then be somehow
Well, we have
obligated?
insurance for that.
You have insurance
It's
for
under
that.
our insurance policy.
So an insurance thing, but there might be something that, for which we aren't insured that could happen? Is that possible?
It's always possible, you know, I don't know. If we set the fire ourselves, we won't get to pay our insurance. But there are a lot of conditions.
I wasn't suggesting arson, no. That was a little beyond.
There's always a possibility where insurance companies say they're not gonna pay. You know, I can't conceive of any
Yeah.
now, but certainly arson is not a good thing for somebody in the town to do.
But obviously,
And the question is, can you restore a historical building? You know, if it burns down, how are you gonna get it back to the original condition? That's another problem.
but this is obviously something SHPO does as routinely for any of their grants.
This is yes, they
Yes.
do. Now, this is a situation where the town owns the property, you designated an entity, a not-for-profit, to maintain, run, manage, do everything you can. Now, there may be other towns that have this kind of arrangement. My guess is there aren't that many. Most towns, the historical society themselves will own the property, go ahead and apply, they're the owners of the property, they get the money, it's their assumption. This is a situation where there's sort of a dual
I see.
obligation here, and it's a little unusual, I think. Now, I may be wrong, and maybe there are hundreds of these out there in Connecticut, but I have a feeling there aren't that many, where municipality is the actual owner of this historical property. Sheila, what do you think?
So I'm looking at 1910 Litchfield, is that the address?
Yes.
And for some reason, our property records say there is no building on that property,
That's,
I
which is
don't know.
interesting. And it also has it zoned as commercial vacant land, which I know is not what the CUPOP, they have grants and aids attached to this property.
Are we
And
sure
that-
that's the right address?
Yeah, I'm looking at the
Yeah,
map
it
too.
is.
Yeah, it's
It's
across
right
the
at-
street, yeah. So I guess, Jerry, my only question is, there were prior grants and aids used when this was purchased?
Yes.
Maybe
Yep.
Jerry Shaw remembers when it was purchased, I'm
Got it.
sure.
And there are some
Here.
restrictions, we
Right.
did look, there are some restrictions there already.
Yeah,
yeah.
there's a restriction already.
So they won't
Yeah.
conflict, though? We'll be able to go into this new, you said
Yeah,
it was
if you
an
wanna-
easement?
If you want to have the additional burdens of maintaining it, keeping it, in
Right.
good shape.
And that doesn't preclude Camp Whiting, Chris Sorensen subletting from us?
It doesn't say anything about that.
Okay,
We
so
can't
that's all fine.
subdivide it, we can't build anything on it, and we can't sell it.
So the easement is to SHPO, the state of Connecticut? Who is
Yes,
the easement? Okay.
yes. We're the
And-
grantor, we're giving it to the state.
And we've had grants from them in the past, so I'm assuming we already have some encumbrances on
So
some
we
of
have
these.
grants on the other side of the street, I think.
Yeah, there's one in the animal control facility.
Yeah.
That was one that we
Yeah.
did.
So we're not,
Oh, we do it, but that's a situation where, I can't think of another situation where we designated somebody else to be the owner, the manager.
yeah.
We are the
Yeah.
town, we own it, it's our responsibility, we keep it up. But this is a little different, this is a unique piece of property. But again, it's okay with me if the board feels that they want to go forward. That's fine with me.
Yeah, well, do you think this would be necessary for grants going forward? Would this be a requirement for grants in the future from SHPO?
Sure, I think this is a standard SHPO document.
So if we didn't do it now, we'd have to do it in the future? Is that
If you were
really
going to
the-
continue on with grants, yeah,
Yeah.
but you could take the position that it's something we don't want to encumber this amount of property for $120,000, either now or in the future.
I have another maybe crazy question. The cow barn is connected to the ice house?
The ice house is behind the cow barn.
Are they together, touching?
No.
No,
Or they're
separate
completely,
buildings.
okay, so it's a separate thing
Yes.
that may come up when they decide to go get a grant for that one at some
Yes,
point? or-
yes.
Okay, so that has, okay, just wanted to
So-
make sure it wasn't gonna be conflicting there. Okay.
So
It's
presume-
gonna give us 121,000 with this grant, but the repairs are actually gonna cost 240,000.
Yes, so Tony knows the breakdown of how that's.
So
gonna be paid.
right. So we have $250,000 expense. The grant covers 120. These are round figures. The town has in their budget about 55. Let's see. The Amity Woodbridge Historical Society has contributed about 31,000. I got that right. 208. And then we have some funding in our budget to cover the rest for starting July 1.
Our
Cover the
capital,
balance, capital, yeah.
budget. So the 55,000 is in this year's operating?
That was put in, yeah, this year's capital budget.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. So it's sort of a contribution, the town, the historical society, the state, everyone's contributed to this project to make it happen.
Because it was so much more than we anticipated.
Correct, because it was so
It's
much more
just-
than we anticipated,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that if we decided, if at a future date, sometime in the next 15 years, subdivision became an issue of the property that was, at that point, we would, would that mean we just give them back the $120,000?
No, I think that their purpose is to
Keep it
maintain
from
that
ever
area.
happening.
But there is a provision, that says that could be waived by getting their consent. I guess if there's a situation which is critical and important and fits in with the overall plan, we can apply to SHPA for a waiver of that provision.
Oh.
They can't unreasonably withhold consent to that request, but they could say no. So that, but it is not irretrievable. There is a possibility of getting them to let us do whatever we want for good cause.
It does sound a little strange that they want to encumber the property across the street as well. Is that what you said? It's
No,
where
no,
it's just-
no, no, no.
It's just the property with the barn,
With the barn,
which is a lot of property.
30 acres, yeah.
Yeah. So Jerry, we've never subdivided that parcel. Would it have been possible to subdivide before we applied for the grant? To
Oh,
just
sure.
section off 2 acres or whatever?
Depending on what those original.
Or an
We
acre.
received an open space grant for it back in
Way back.
1974.
Does that ever expire, or is that runs forever?
You know, I don't know. I have the documents. Tony sent it to me, and I didn't look at it carefully. I just know that there are some encumbrance already on there. This encumbers it a little more,
Right,
and this will prevent us from certainly
from
subdividing
subdividing
going
it
forward.
for any purpose.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean,
I would imagine so long as there's nothing in the existing documents that prevents subdivision, we could have subdivided it before this happened.
but now, so if we go with this, what you've got in front of us here,
That's it.
we're locking it
That's
for
it.
15
Right, can't
years.
do it.
But
For
we're also
100
getting the cow barn fixed, and I don't see any other way to do that if we're not going to take these matching funds.
Right.
I don't know how we're going to afford to do this.
They got our backs against the wall.
Well, the question that the question for you is obvious, is
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the $120,000
Worth
worth
it.
encumbering the property for 15 years?
I mean, it's historic and cannot be replaced, so.
Cannot, never.
Yeah.
Right.
So, if you,
So would you like some kind of?
I think we should make a motion and see how you guys want to vote on it.
Okay. So what would that motion be?
I think the motion would be, we hereby move that the town of Woodbridge proceeds with the
The grant?
funding regarding the cow barn on Litchfield Turnpike in accordance with the documents submitted to us for approval. And that includes the easement, the declaration of covenants, and the declaration of preservation restrictions. So I think that's it.
So moved. Have you got that, Jerry?
Well enough. I'll-
Okay.
I'm on,
We're videotaping, so,
Right.
yeah, go back and
Plus, we're
rewind.
also
Okay.
recording.
Oh, good, okay. Is there a second? Okay, thank you, Joe. Let's see what the pleasure of the board is. All in favor of doing this, signify by saying aye. And it's unanimous. Good.
cool.
Good to
So
know.
then, Jerry, the grant comes to the town, or?
The grant will come to the
Because we
town.
own it. yeah.
Grant comes to the town.
It's a reimbursement grant, so we put out the money to pay the contractor, submit the documents to verify that we paid the contractor and that the work was performed, and then they send us the money.
More paperwork for
So,
Tony.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Which
now,
is
grants
typically how
administration,
That's
yeah,
how grants
yeah.
always work,
And then, do we have a sense of the timeline? When will we get to see this restored
believe-
cow barn?
I believe the cow barn is, at least the base bid portion, I think, will hopefully be done pretty soon.
It needs it, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
excellent.
So
Does it come with
I- I
cows
Right,
when
she
they do
said-
that?
She
think
said
April
they-
maybe.
Yeah.
Do they-
Cows
did
for it.
Did they fill it with cows then, or just
Then they'll wait till the
We'll
summer
have
to
to go
do
for
the,
another round.
old, classic,
rat
old,
alternates.
ancient cow?
Ah.
Some painting and some other.
Because they have to get the money, assuming
17th
it's
century cows.
approved, right, at the annual town meeting.
Correct.
The second half of
Right.
that, we have to hope that it goes through at the annual town meeting
Correct.
in May.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right, wonderful. That's in the capital, I think?
Capital, yeah.
Capital, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you. And then item B under your
So I
report.
guess I'm not doing too badly, you know? We're
You're doing
there,
great.
Right.
And this is, okay, so we have in your packet, I mentioned it briefly in my opening remarks about the MOU between the town of Woodbridge and the town of Beacon Falls. Month to month, maybe you want to explain how we got here, Jerry?
So apparently, you all probably read something in the papers about the Beacon Falls Animal Control Facility and their ACO, who has been put on leave, I think. They had a big problem. They had a bigger problem in determining what to do with the animals. Karen Lombardi and the Woodbridge Animal Control got involved and helped them out tremendously and assumed some of the obligations to take care of those animals. Beacon Falls has requested that we continue on in a more formal basis. And I prepared this document, which I think you all have. It is just a short memorandum agreement that runs intentionally for a short period of time, 30 days. We don't know how it's going to work out in terms of Karen or ACO's workload and how they're going to be able to handle this, but Tony thought that a 30-day period would be great for us to see how it goes. We have
She
the
has
right.
agreed to this.
She has agreed to it.
We're not dumping
Right.
it on her, she, you know.
So we're-
The charge is basically set to cover our expenses that would be caused as a result of going on a call on a short-term basis to make sure that the additional workload presented by Beacon Falls we'd be able to accomplish with our existing staff and our existing arrangement. Because you don't want to have to add staff, otherwise the savings is,
Right. Not worth
And
it.
that's
Not
why we
worth it.
limited it to 30 days to see how it works for
right,
us.
see
in
how many
terms of
calls
funding.
they get, what type of
Right.
calls, that sort of thing.
There's also a self-executing renewal process where it automatically goes for another 30 days upon agreement of both parties.
We did a similar arrangement with Seymour,
Yes.
where we did it on a temporary basis. to
And that
make
became
sure-
permanent.
And now they're permanent,
It
right?
worked out, so.
So that's what we
And it
anticipate.
was
Beacon
by-
Falls
it
is a
was
little farther away than
horrific.
Seymour.
It was a terrible
Pardon?
situation.
Beacon Falls is a little bit farther away than Seymour.
They do border Seymour,
Yeah.
And
as
the
I
Board of Bethany,
understand
right?
it, right, and Bethany, that's what she
Yeah,
said,
right,
yeah,
yeah.
so, in a sense, and
Used to be
I
part of
could be
Woodbridge.
wrong about this, but I thought Karen mentioned to me that because we are a district animal control, we were able to assume this. Someone who's just like their own entity would have to become a district animal control in order to assume this responsibility, so it kind of worked out that way, so we were able to, maybe it'll work out.
Yeah, this
more
could be a
permanently.
permanent basis if it works out for us.
Yeah, and they do not have a police department, as I understand, in Beacon Falls. They use Troop I.
I'm not sure.
I
But
don't
I think
know.
they do have some form.
I thought that's what she said to me, but I'm not sure. Sort
No.
of similar to what Bethany has, but I
I
don't know.
think they may have
Maybe
some
haven't.
police presence.
Okay. Bethany has some. They have what is it called? The resident trooper.
Because the person I'm interacting with is a Beacon Falls
Okay,
Police
okay, well then, good.
corporal.
So it's all good. So did everyone have a chance to look this over? Okay, so I will make a motion that we
A lot of words.
approve the memorandum of understanding between the town of Woodbridge and the town of Beacon Falls covering the period between March 10th, 2023 and April 10th, 2023, as described and reviewed by all of us in this document. Is there a second? Thank you. Any other comments on any portions of it or pieces? And as I said, Karen Lombardi, our ACO, is okay with this so far. That's why it's a month to month. See how it goes. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Okay.
See
Do
how
you
it
have an
works.
update on open communities? Anything you want to learn from this?
I have no update, no. Oh, the only update we have on open communities is that we spoke about, I think, a while ago, that we were going to see whether a judge who is charged just with the housing court in matters involving housing in Connecticut, which this falls under, would be willing to accept this case, which leads to one judge handling the case from the beginning to the end, rather than get different judges with different motions and different hearings. The plaintiff in this case agreed to have that judge take the case. We then applied to that judge for to see whether he would be willing to take it, and he said yes. So the case is officially in the housing court.
Oh, good.
Which leads to a little bit more efficiency procedurally. So it's and both sides agreed. So, and that's all I have on that case.
That's good.
Sounds like progress.
Okay, thank you. Pretty good timing. Well, it's 5:55, the bullseye watch here.
Take a
5:55.
brief recess, or?
You're gonna have to take a recess after this.
Yeah, is there, did you receive any public comments in the mail or email or?
No, I just received that one public comment from Amy Morella, but I believe she has withdrawn that until the cultural committee meets.
She had some questions related to the building committee.
Yes, for the building
At
committee.
the community and cultural center,
Mhm.
correct? And Sandy didn't get back to her, so she wanted to have it come to us, but Sandy wrote back and said she had a problem with it, that death, something happened in her
Yeah.
family, so she said she will address it at the next building committee meeting, and she's got all the questions, and she'll get back to Amy, so Amy said no need to bring it to the board at this point, so, okay. Is there
That's
anyone
it?
here for public comment?
Nope.
If they show up in the next 2 minutes, well. Okay, all right, so at this point, I think we should just have a motion to take a recess.
Mm.
Unfortunately, till our
6:30.
public hearing at 6:30, we have to do it on time in case members of the public come in.
Sure.
So with that, I'll make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And we'll resume at 6:30. Oh, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, thanks, guys. I'm sorry we have to hang out for half an hour. Thank you. We are now out of our recess and in regular session of the Wednesday, March 8th, 2023 regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. The last item on our agenda is a public hearing regarding tax refunds of $25 or below, and also to amend the Woodbridge Code Statute 75-5 membership and terms of office. And with that, I'll begin the script. In accordance with section 4-5, parens B, parens 1 of the Charter of the Town of Woodbridge, I now call this public hearing to order to receive comments regarding proposed ordinance concerning the refund of tax overpayment of $25 or less, and to revise section 75-5, extending terms of office for board and commission members. The legal notice was published in the New Haven Register on February 23rd, 2023, and there's a copy of it in your packets. Is there a motion to waive the reading of the legal notice?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Everything okay, Pula?
Microphone on?
Start all over?
No.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, we have a motion and a second to waive the reading of the legal notice, correct? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And now I'm supposed to ask Mr. Weiner to explain the proposed code changes.
Well, I
It's
think,
highlighted right here.
yeah, I know, I think they're self-explanatory. The first one is at the tax collector's request to be relieved of the responsibility and the obligation and the burden of returning excess payments under $25. We originally discussed this a couple months ago, and we were all under the impression, and I was under the impression, that even though, that the money ultimately would be credited to the taxpayer's account, but that was wrong. The town has no ability to do that. So essentially what happens is that the payments under $25 go to the town and not the taxpayer. So, and this will apparently relieve her some significant burdens in terms of running the office. So that's the tax issue. The second issue is just to conform the, as Sheila brought up, our code and our ordinances call for the commencement of boards and commission terms to be July 1, and they expire June 30th. This will make that ordinance provision consistent with what we're doing in our election. The election has been moved from, all elected officials now will take office on a July 1, on a December, in January, as opposed to July 1 in the past, in accordance with the state statute, which mandated all elections take place in November, except if the Board of Selectmen, the legislative authority, by a supermajority, says that they want to stay in May. We did not vote to keep and retain elections in May, so they automatically moved to November. And that's the second ordinance. And appointed boards and commissions terms will now be consistent with what the elected officials will be commencing with our November election in 2023.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, should we hang out for a couple more minutes?
Yeah, there's no one here. We can wait for another minute. Or you can-
Okay, we'll wait till that clock says 6:30, just in case somebody's pulling in. It's like the time to close the polls at 8 o'clock, you know, and who's out there in the parking lot.
Unfortunately, that's fast.
Is it fast? Oh, damn.
Yeah. Verizon says it's.
He's right.
6:26.
Yeah, 6:26.
Which is the official one?
That's a
I
good
don't think there's
question.
any- I don't
That's a
think there's any
reasonable
law on
question.
that.
Well,
I
now,
waited till this phone said 5 o'clock, so, when we started the
6:27.
meeting. So we'll hang out for a couple more minutes.
I have a question that maybe we could discuss.
Related to this?
Yes,
Surprise,
related
surprise,
to
surprise,
this.
Sheila.
Related to this. So once that, let's assume, let's project a little bit and we close the hearing and then we vote. What happens then? Do we update, like where it is online in our ordinances, whatever that is? Is it,
Well, Stephanie, the town clerk, automatically has a service that comes in. I don't know how often they do it, but they update the ordinances and any charter provision changes.
right,
So I assume that she'll be on top. We'll notify, she'll get this and.
it's a bit of a process
It
to
is a
get it in
process,
the
yes.
document
Wow.
so that
Right.
people see it. And then, obviously, we need to notify the board and commission members whose terms are continuing, right?
Correct.
An extra
Right.
6 months.
Now, of course, this ordinance, if it is approved tonight, these two ordinances, they don't go into effect for 30 days.
Right.
Oh, good
Hmm.
point.
The interesting thing is, as you all know, we have a charter provision that says that every appointed member of a board and commission serves until their successor is appointed. So that could often go beyond the expiration of the term
That's right.
if they're not appointed. So while it's nice to have this and clarify the ordinances, it really was not a problem because the Board of Selectmen would not appoint anybody to boards and commissions until the time period is run by to January.
Mhm.
But it's nice to clean it up. All right, look at that.
6:28. Don't you?
We certainly wouldn't want to have our citizens upset over this.
Anybody out in the parking lot, standing in line, you know? Make sure the door's unlocked. Ugh.
It's funny how everybody has the exact same time because we have these things.
Well, everybody has the
Same
same
Atomic
clock.
clock,
Right.
yeah. We're all same.
Somebody shouted out when it's 6:30.
I got 6:29.
Ugh, yeah.
I think we're done.
We have to vote on two separate motions, so
Yes.
hang tight. Oh, this is crazy.
It's a great YouTube video.
It's like being back in grade school, waiting for the bell to ring.
No, then we just kill each other. Yep, 6:30, right?
All right.
Everybody agrees, okay. Are there any comments from the public present? There are no public present people, so no comments, okay. I now declare the public hearing closed. Okay, here's the first one. Is there a motion to adopt the new ordinance authorizing the tax collector to retain payments in excess of the amount due, provided the amount of the excess payment is $25, parens,
It's less than $25.
it says 35 here.
Oh,
Right?
God.
Okay,
The
20,
access.
no worries, okay, it is 25 though,
Yes.
right? Okay, or less. Motion?
So moved.
Thanks. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
I now declare the motion passed. Number 2, is there a motion to amend Woodbridge Ordinance Statute 7-5-5, extending the terms of office for board and commission members to December 31st of terms expiring in any given year, beginning with the year 2023?
So moved.
Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? I now declare the motion passed. The new and amending ordinance shall be effective 30 days from the date of adoption, April 7th, 2023. And that's it. We are now adjourned. Thank you,
I move we
everybody, for
adjourn.
hanging in.
Second.
Good night.